Hey, everybody, welcome back to Miles and Mentors. We have an excellent one today, and we're going to be touching in on CDL programs. We've got with us Ed Kimes, the program director, and Darrell Spitzer, the dean of the Wyoming College. We're going to touch all in on their lived and learned knowledge throughout the industry and find out all about their CDL programs. So stick with us. We got a great one lined up for you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking. Getting real-life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I want to dive in. I'm totally stoked to dive in and understand more about the program that you have, the knowledge that goes behind it, and really setting up that firm foundation for our next generation of drivers in this country. I want to start in with both of you. If you just tell us a little bit about who you are and your role today.
My name is Ed Kimes, and I'm the CDL program director for Eastern Wyoming College, both in Torrington, Wyoming, and Douglas, Wyoming.
I'm Darrell Spitzer. I'm the Dean of Workforce and Career Technical Education, so I'm over more programs, but over the CDL program, helping Ed with keeping things rolling as far as expanding our CDL program and stuff.
That's fantastic, guys. I'm curious, Ed, reading your biography, you talk about like 35 years plus within the industry, and then Dean Darrell, understanding, calling you Dean, your title, that sticks in there. But just understanding the background, what is it that got you guys in this field in the first place? What brought you to the industry?
To trucking itself or to the training part?
For you, a little bit of both. I'm curious.
So I've grown up in trucking my whole life. My grandpa was a mule skinner, hauled logs of the mule team. My dad was a truck driver and heavy equipment operator. My cousins, my uncles, my brother have all been truck drivers, equipment operators, mechanics. When I graduated high school, I went straight to working on trucks. And so I've just always been around trucks. I grew up in the logwoods with my dad and started as a mechanic, then driver, school bus mechanics, truck mechanic, and then an owner operator. And now I'm here.
That's fantastic. So what made that transition from the trucking side of things to the educational side of things for you?
So I was actually planning on just doing this to kind of ride out the winter.
Okay.
My brother had talked to me about it and said they needed an instructor. And I had a really particularly bad winter in North Dakota. I decided I'm just going to try this for the winter. So my plan was to come here and ride out the rest of the wintertime and then go back to driving. But once I got here and I realized what the program was and what I could actually do, I deactivated my authority, sold my trailers, and February, I've been here 2 years in February. So I started out as an instructor, helped to build the program, and now I'm the director of it.
I love that, man. It's funny how doors open and you never know where they're going to go, but sometimes they just work out. Well, Darrell, how about yourself? What got you into this line of work, this role?
Well, this role, so I worked my way into it. I was working in industry my whole life. So I worked in welding shops. I worked in construction. I did some heavy sales, heavy parts sales for trucks and off-road, cats and backhoes and shovels, and primarily in Oregon, a lot of logging there, a lot of trucks. Of course, there's trucks everywhere. And then I threw my hat in the ring at a college one time, and about 10 years ago, and I got hired on and then worked my way from kind of an administrative position into the career workforce, and then started working with a lot of our logging mills and companies and doing that and trying to do that. And then we, after the Fed set up you have to have a truck driving school. We started a truck driving school there, and I was involved in that, its promotion and its work. And then a few years ago, we moved to Wyoming, and I got a job here at the college, and then I've worked myself into this role as well. And I believe in this. I believe in the training. I believe in this is really where it's at, right? I mean, unfortunately, I think we've earned it. Higher education's earned a reputation that we are selling bachelor's degrees that people don't use. And so I really gravitated towards workforce and towards career technical, and truck driving is the pinnacle of that. I mean, 4 or 5 weeks at the most, and you're licensed, you're an entry level driver, you can go right to work and start developing your skills and get your career going and get out there and make things happen. I mean, this is, let's be honest, the country is driven by the wheels of trucks. And for me, this is sort of a pinnacle or a capstone program in the work I do. I have a lot of other responsibilities, but this is a huge piece. And honestly, we have a great program thanks to this guy. So
I love that. Well, it sounds like it's a newer program, and I want to dive in on kind of like how that all came about. But I just want to highlight the fact that while not knowing a ton about you guys just yet, I guess I'm drawn to programs like yours because we see so many of these fly-by-night CDL schools, and guys just come out of them not knowing much and scared to hit the road. Like, I used to work for Trans Am Trucking back in the day on the marketing side, but we would see those recruitment calls, and these guys are like, I am not ready to go out by myself, and it's like, it's scary there. But seeing programs, especially through the colleges, I feel like have such a stronger baseline of core knowledge to them. So it excites me seeing those programs. For you guys, what was it that brought this into being that it needed to be something to happen?
So the government provided grants for colleges to begin CDL programs.
Okay.
And before I came here in 2020, there was a grant to buy trucks and a trailer and a simulator. So that got it going. But then they had to find instructors and everything else. And I was in Twin Falls, Idaho, when I was sitting at a truck stop eating breakfast, and I saw the news article or the news on the TV about this new CDL programs, and I laughed because I thought, well, okay, we'll see how this goes. But because I've seen so many drivers that they just did not have a clue what they were doing, and I'd see them on the road, and so then. We got to go in here. I got hired. And when I first came here, I told them that I said, well, I'll do it, but we are not pushing people through this program. If that's what you're looking for, right, I'm not your guy. We won't start them on January 1st and tell them your test date's January 25th. I'm not doing that. They have to be ready. And every one of our instructors has years and years and years of experience in trucks, and from owner operators to oil field to construction. So all of that knowledge comes together, and we have a pretty good grading system. And our students, I believe our students are, when they test, they're ready to test, and they're comfortable and confident.
I've been to Wyoming a few times. We got some family up there. It's just popping in my head, man. If you're going to be a driver or learn how to drive, like, what more of a beautiful place to do it? Of course, I don't know the wintertime. The wintertime might be fun.
Well, it is, but on the one hand, I believe it really kind of gives us the ability to produce better entry-level drivers. Every company has to understand that every student is an entry-level driver. They are not a veteran driver. So when you hire out of a training program, you have an entry-level driver that you have to mentor and teach and give them more practical experience. But the mountains, the snow and the weather and the wind, I really believe it produces our high school students. I would stack them up against many, many other drivers.
That's wonderful to hear. I mean, it is true. It's kind of the sad truth. We see so many drivers on the road today. I mean, equipment's one thing. There's so much equipment out there that shouldn't be on the road, but then you see a lot of drivers that are just ill-equipped to be in the position they are and handle the size and type of machinery they're handling. So, I mean, this is one of those pinnacle moments that we have the opportunity to make sure who goes out there is properly equipped, has that firm foundation. And I love the fact that you said, the instructors there have so much experience behind them because, especially on this show, we love mentorship. So I feel like that really falls into place more than just, hey, here's the book and here's, the stuff you got to know. But you've got guys with that lived and learned experience that can actually pass that along, that's been there, that, knows the job inside and out beyond just the textbook and is able to pass that on to the next person. I think makes the world a difference.
It does.
So diving in, what does it look like to get into your program? How do people go about that?
So they apply online. And once I get their application, then I contact them. And when we have at least 3 students, we put them into orientation. So we have 3 half-day orientation classes where we go over everything from air brake systems, steering systems. My background is as a heavy truck mechanic, so I really want them to have an understanding of the mechanical side of a truck.
Yeah.
They go through the orientation. They go out with an instructor for half a day to kind of go over the pre-trip inspection. Modernized pre-trip inspections are really very basic and not very good. So we still teach the very in-depth pre-trip inspection. Then we transition them over to modernized before they test. So once they go through orientation, then we put them in class sizes of 2 to 3 at the most with an instructor. Our trucks have student seating in the back or in the sleeper section. We'll put them with an instructor. Then their program begins. They begin with pre-trip inspections, range, course, and driving. That's where they start and go.
Fantastic. You know, looking at the industry and the experience that's kind of being passed on to these students going through the program, I'm curious, Ed, with like over 30 years in the industry, you've seen a lot change from, you know, when you first got started to today. It's an ever-changing industry. What's some things that you feel have gotten worse and have gotten better over time, and how does that impact those students that are turning into drivers to the industry today?
I think when we transitioned to a CDL from the old chauffeur's license, the CDL holds you more accountable as far as your driving record and speed and everything else. So that's an improvement. I do like electronic log books. I hate ELDs. It's a frustrating tool. Forward-facing cameras really protects us as drivers. You just cannot beat them. The public tries to get as much as they can out of a truck. Well, that forward-facing camera that's a real great tool for the industry. Driver-facing cameras, I'm just not a fan of at all. I never will be.
Yeah.
The training, I think the training is improving. Modernized, unfortunately, kind of simplifies it again, but that comes into each training facility's ability. You got to train above and beyond that. Equipment, I think the equipment has improved. Crash mitigation and some of those, that's maybe not such a good thing for us in this industry. DEF and different ones definitely aren't, but yeah.
Now, you mentioned the driver-facing cameras. I know a lot of this, you know, any kind of the tech, even the ELD factors, like you get people in the industry that love them and hate them, and they turn into a very hot topic. For your perspective on the driver-facing cameras, what's your biggest issue with those?
That's invasive of driver privacy. You sleep in the truck, you live in the truck, that is your home. Yeah. No one wants a camera in their bedroom at their home. The people that require driver-facing cameras for their fleets, do they have them in their bedroom at home?
It's a fantastic point. You know, one of the other ones I've heard, and you know, you always get the double-edged sword or the two perspectives of it, because the ones, you know, arguing for it are usually, you know, C-suite and stuff that want, you know, to see every aspect of their company. But I guess the factor that I've heard is like stress, right? Like just knowing you're being watched every 2 seconds can lead to a more stressful environment and impact how aware you are in some situations, just because you're solely focused on that.
It does. And if a company hires a driver, they hire the driver to drive the truck. Yeah. The driver, if you can't trust the person that you hired, then why did you hire them?
That's a fantastic point. Fantastic point. Now, one of the things you mentioned about your program is not only did you guys get trucks, but you got simulators as well. That's a pretty cool advanced piece of equipment that we see utilized in many different aspects, many different industries today. How important and vital do you see those being versus going straight into the truck?
Oh, I don't think there's a whole lot of advantage to a simulator.
Really? Okay.
Where I do find it to be an advantage, if you have a student that is trying to learn and memorize a shift pattern, it's a whole lot safer to memorize a 10-speed, a 13-speed, and an 18-speed sitting in a simulator than it is actually on the road. Yeah. Because they take their eyes off the road to look at the shift pattern. The simulator gives them the ability to memorize and learn those shift patterns rather than learning them on the road. And we have used it for that. And it also kind of gives the student the awareness of a trailer behind them. It's safer to run over curbs, light poles, cars with the simulator than it is the real truck.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Because most don't, we get them from that have driven cars with no manual transmissions, and we start them out fresh with no experience. So I and you have had trailers behind us for years, and sometimes they haven't, and you have to remember and learn that trailer's behind you, and it doesn't track where the tractor goes.
Yeah, especially starting out. I mean, it's a weird feeling, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's big too. It's not like, hauling a trailer behind a car. And, not that I ever drove professionally in that sense. I've always been on kind of the marketing side of the industry, but we did have the opportunity several times to hop in, drive the truck around the yard and put the trailer behind it. And yeah, it's a different feeling for sure. And it's something that is calculated in its size and something to get used to.
Another aspect that we use with the simulators at my other colleges, we had it in, and we're going to set that up here. We're going to set it as a mobile simulator, have it in a trailer where we can take it out to use it. We used it for a couple of things, I think, to really good effect, and they indirectly affected, one of them indirectly affected the program. We got a lot of folks. We would get commissioners, we would get, presidents of companies and things like that to come in and sit in the simulator. And they get in the simulator and they find out, you probably have all heard it. I probably said it years ago. They're just driving truck. They're just driving a truck. Driving a truck's a complex thing, and it takes a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of attention to detail, and you have to know a lot of things and a lot of laws and physics. And so they get in a truck and they start in these simulators, and then the instructor starts to mess with them a little bit. They throw a deer out in the road in front of them. They do this, they do that. They got to turn, and they start to see, and as it physically moves, you start to get that, and they start to understand sort of the depth of truck driving. And then also we were able to use our simulator. I came from Tillamook, and so we had a lot of fluid trucks, so non-baffled milk trucks and things like that. And you could set tanker settings and things on there. And so folks who had driven truck but who hadn't were going to drive a different type, like drive a tanker, like I said, specifically non-baffled tanker. We were able to give them a little bit of experience with that, so it did increase that. But we used it as a promotional and awareness tool a lot.
Yeah,
probably more than we used it as a training tool. But I think it is valuable in training, like you said, especially if you have somebody struggling or somebody who wants to get it, or some of the younger drivers. We have a pretty robust high school program, and some of those younger kids who really have nothing. That's a very safe and all of this is about risk mitigation, right? And so that does mitigate some risk and some wear and tear if we can get them in and have them, ruin the transmission on the simulator as opposed to our tractor, right?
Right. Yeah. Let me just load up a new one real quick. Oh, cool. There's a new transmission.
We do blow tires on them so they can get accustomed to that.
Well, so that's one of the things I was thinking. I may have missed this part, but when you're talking about taking that mobily as a, promotional aspect, is that just for a select group, or is that, like, let's say at a fair for general public to come try it out? How does that work?
For general public, we'll take it to the high schools. We'll take it to the fair, different places.
I love that. And I totally, I get wanting to promote the program, but in a general sense, I love that opportunity for the general public to be able to have some insight into what it's like behind a truck, behind the wheel of a truck, because so many drivers today, you see them just swerve in front of a truck, hit their brakes, and they don't understand the operation of a truck, how it's different from a car. Because I think they just think it's like a Honda Civic, stop on a dime.
Yeah.
And so, I think that aspect, it's, not being real, but having those simulated aspects has huge value just to let some people understand the difference and what the driver is going through.
So for the general public, one of the things we do, we enter the parades, but that's not for the public to try them out. But every year in September, we're members of Women in Trucking, and we're really big. Yeah. We support Women in Trucking. 3 of our instructors are women. And for that, we work with the Girl Scouts. And in September, we do what's called Trucks Are for Girls. We're the only college in the region that does that. So Women in Trucking brings the Whitney trailer, and that has the simulator. So the first year we had it limited to Girl Scouts. The second year and this year we'll open it up to everybody in the public. So women and kids come and they get to try it out. And we have industry professionals from everything from brokers and insurance companies to truck drivers to dispatchers. And every one of these people volunteer their time, fuel, and equipment to come and set up for a full Saturday. Our speaker this year is coming all the way from Pueblo, Colorado. And I said, we can't pay you. This is volunteer. She said, I don't need money. I'll bring it there. So this gives the public a chance. One of the one of the Port of Entry supervisors from Casper, she comes, and then whiteout employees come, and they set it up so that these girls can sit in the truck and run a truck during a DOT inspection. And one gets on a creeper with the port supervisor, and she inspects the truck as though it's going through a port of entry. So This gives the public real life hands-on experience. They get to sit in the trucks, they get to inspect them, they get to use the simulator. So it's incredible for the public.
That's fantastic. I mean, that really just shows the service you guys are doing. It goes beyond the classroom. Like, you're educating not only those going into the field, but the general public as well. And there's just a lot of need behind that. So I appreciate what you guys are doing there. So I'm curious, with kind of, finalizing the program, do your students often have jobs lined up afterwards? And what are their ambitions? Are most of these students going with ambitions to be company drivers? Are they looking to eventually be owner operators, fleet owners? Kind of, do you get any scope there?
We have a mix of both. But the funny thing is, lots of companies would like to hire our drivers, but 80% of them already have jobs when they come here. They have a job lined up, so they want to go from here straight to driving trucks. A lot of them are local. Some are hauling pipe. Some want to be owner operators, which we really help them to understand there's a lot to being an owner operator. You do it the correct way, you're going to survive. You don't, you're never going to make it.
Right.
So they have jobs lined up. Lots of people have the idea that the younger people in Wyoming don't want to stay in Wyoming, but I have not found that to be true. But they have to be able to make a living to live here.
Yeah.
So the high school students, we had 12 last year and 11 this year, and the majority of those are already working in the trucking industry. Some went on to college, but most are in the trucking industry, and they don't want to leave Wyoming, and they're driving trucks in Wyoming. They just want to be able to make a living.
Right.
So we have 100%. We don't offer job placement, but I can refer them to companies that are looking for drivers. And of those that want to work, 100% of them are working driving trucks.
That's fantastic to hear. I love that. Really do. For those that are, either going in to be owner operators that have that ambition, do you guys touch on anything about, because that's a huge difference, right? There's a ton to know and learn just being a company driver, but then branching out to that owner operator is kind of a whole nother ball game, right? You're taking everything on your shoulders, from not just being the driver and everything that has, but running the business as well. Is there any kind of insight down the road into what that might be, best practices, et cetera?
So we touch on it in orientation some. We're working on developing a certificate program that'll be geared to owner operators. So we have a brokerage and supply chain ed-to-go program. We're going to move it in-house and develop the curriculum. So we would offer supply chain, brokerage, business math, entrepreneurship, public speaking. A lot of them, you would tell them, well, you need to learn public speaking. Well, why? Because you've got to sell yourself to those companies. There's a whole lot of trucks.
Yeah.
What's going to set you apart? So once we get the certificate program going, that'll be specifically for people that are interested in being owner operators. Currently, we touch on it in orientation, and then I work one-on-one with students that want to become owner operators. I learned a lot of hard lessons, expensive lessons, so I can hopefully help them to learn it a little bit easier.
That's really cool. I love that your program is, aiming to be that diverse and really set them up for a career in the industry, and not just the driving, the CDL program itself, but kind of that whole picture. I think that's fantastic. Touching in on your experience throughout the industry, kind of on that financial aspect, because it's one of those industries, you make a lot of money in trucking, but you spend a lot of money in trucking too. So if you don't know how to properly balance that and account for that, you can take on water really quick. I know your program doesn't touch on this probably entirely, but kind of your experience being behind the wheel and behind the books, what financial advice would you give for somebody going out as an owner operator?
Your first 6 months are going to be rough,
Mm.
and you've got to have enough money bankroll to make it through your first 6 months. Your first year, you're going to start to pick up better brokers, better companies to work for, not as many loads off the load board. You survive that first year, then you can do well. Manage your equipment, do your pre-trip inspections. If you don't know bookkeeping, I'm not good at numbers. So the best thing for me to do, I had a bookkeeper that I hired. It was worth what I paid her and then I worked with a licensing company. When you're on the road, you think you can handle IFTA reporting and all of those things, but 300 days of the year that you're on the road,
Yeah,
you can't. So you work with a licensing company. They do your IFTA reporting. They do all of your licensing and then your tax accountant. So those are your three best friends, unless you're a numbers person, you have the ability, or you have a spouse that can do it for you. That keeps you above water. Pay your taxes because you're not going to. And I also kind of learned, I did not know exactly what factoring companies were. Brokers like to pay you every 30 to 45 days because they can hold on to that money.
yeah,
I understand it's a tough job being a broker, but brokers need to understand a truck driver is the one that's putting in the fuel for 30 to 45 days. That broker gets paid for that job fairly quickly. So I went with a factoring company, which helps, they take 2 to 3%, but they do all your billing for you. You get paid from them quicker.
right.
Be very careful who you choose as a factoring company and do your research,
Sure.
because there are good factoring companies and there are bad ones.
Definitely. That's a great point. It kind of makes me think, like, truck drivers in general have my hat off to them. It's a hell of a job, takes a lot of responsibility. Looking at some of these old guys that, or old school guys, I should say, running as an owner operator and not utilizing those outside services, just kind of they're booking their own loads on the load board. They're doing the drive and they're doing the billing. I'm like, holy hell, man. Like, how are you doing all this? Like, you're behind the wheel and then you're off time, you're working. It's like, when do you sleep? I would go nuts. How important do you see it? Like, we mentioned some factoring and brokering there, but finding those partners to align with that kind of give you that sense of a back office, so to speak, to take a little bit of that burden off.
It's very important. And the sooner you can find specific brokers or companies that you can haul for, those are well worth having, because you're not always looking for the whatever loads are available on the. There's a whole bunch of trucks looking for the same loads you are.
Yeah.
But if you build relationships with those companies, those brokers and shipping companies, relationships are what gets you ahead in this business. We've built relationships with people, and that's part of what's made our program so successful, is that we do build relationships. We teach professionalism. We really, really hammer professionalism.
Yeah.
Your equipment clean and neat, the way you look when you show up. Brokers, shippers, receivers, all of those people communicate. So if you show up on a job site to load and you're supposed to have a hard hat and you don't have it, you show up in flip-flops and shorts and a tank top and you're loading $1 million equipment, don't do that.
Right.
We're a professional company. We're a professional organization and career. Look professional, act professional, keep your equipment clean and neat, and build those relationships based on that.
Yeah. One of the things you touched in on there too was factoring companies, finding out like the good ones, the bad ones, et cetera. 100%. I think that goes with, anyone you partner with, right? There's always going to be variations in that. One thing I've seen with factoring companies is they're often aligned with a lot of those other like partnered type services, tire discounts, this, that, all that jazz that you can come into. What's your thoughts on finding a factoring company that supports all that? And then mentioning the good and bad, in your experience, what are some of the bad things to look out for?
So some factoring companies lock you in to a year contract, which is fine if everything is good. Some factoring companies, the way that they manage their paperwork, you can really get dinged pretty hard and lose part of that load. Some of them renew. I got a kind of a bad one, and it took me a long time to get out from underneath that factoring company. I could not cancel my contract with that factoring company. I had to do it between 60 and 30 days of the renewal. If I didn't do it in that time frame, they automatically renewed me. So I was stuck for another year waiting for that. When I contacted customer service, you could never get anywhere in customer service. So find a company, do the research, find a company that has really good customer service, people that you can talk to, and find out how, if you sign up with that factoring company, how do you get out of that factoring company? They're all going to take 2 to 3%.
Yeah.
That part's pretty much the same across the board. It's all of that other stuff, the customer service. How do you get out of it if you choose to get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, with all that too, is also finding someone that has that vested interest in you succeeding, right? Because I guess they all do at the end of the day, but I guess the companies that act on that, because if you fund once and then go under as a company, like, you're not doing a whole heck of a lot for them either. You've both got to succeed to, do well at the end. And I think the ultimate goal, obviously, is to grow your fleet, be able to self-fund one of these days, right? So someone that gives you the tools and stepping stones to get you to that point.
Yeah.
Like you said, do your homework and pick the best option and any partners to go along with your company. Now, before we wrap up here today, one thing I want to touch in on both of you guys is kind of that mentorship aspect and a couple different aspects of it. For one, the kids that go through, well, maybe I shouldn't say kids at that age, right? But the people that go through your program and go out into the job market, what kind of connection, or is there a connection that gets kept afterwards? If they want to touch in for that real life advice and experience, do you guys have an ongoing connection with them afterwards?
Oh, yeah. They can call us anytime. They can stop in this office. Neither of us are ever too busy to talk to them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. The student is, that's I guess that's our customer, right? So
Sure.
we have to take care of them. Yeah. We have folks stop in, folks check in. Some of our students will train for us in the future. We try to, we believe in them and believe in the work that they're doing. And we, and they're, and they're around town. Like I said, a lot of our people are local. They're here. So we see them at the way stations. We see them at the supermarkets. There's just a lot of community, a lot of small town feel.
Right.
But yeah, it is. And in a lot of ways, and I've understood this, sort of vicariously, but there's, trucking's a big brotherhood, really a big family. Sure. It's a collective of people and experiences, and we have to support each other. We have to, we have to be there to promote and to protect and to push along the industry, because it's vital. And, and I think we all have to play a part in that, which is what you're doing here, right?
100%, man. I fully agree with everything there. I think that's fantastic too, because I don't care what industry you're going into. I don't care what kind of training you've had. You go through, you get the degrees, you get all the knowledge, you know it to the T, but then you get out in there in the field and you're doing that real life experience. There's going to be that situation where it's like, damn it, Ed, how would you have handled this? What should I do better here? So I think there's huge value in having someone with that experience to turn back to and be like, yeah, I know what the textbook says, but in real life, how would you approach this? I think there's huge value in that.
I think so too.
Yep.
Now, touching in on both of your experiences, through going through the industries and ultimately getting where you are today, just in life in general, how has mentorship impacted you guys? And, is there someone that really stood out in your path as a mentor?
Do you want to answer first?
Yeah, I would say so. I could say he was, when I went to school late in life. I didn't go until I was 30. I didn't want to go to college, and then I decided I wanted to, and I learned a lot. It was a librarian at an undergrad school in Oregon named Philip Johnson, and he was a mentor to me. He taught me a lot about life and a lot about time and a lot about and probably the biggest thing he taught me is there's always an opportunity to do things. And so If you do something and it doesn't work out, you can do it more. You can do it again. You can start again. Our lives aren't, and a lot of times we do that here. I mean, it's really translated into my life, right? You start some industry and then you end up in education, which is in so many ways, it's the same, but it's completely different because you're working in just a different shell, right? Than out there beating the pavement. And it really has impacted me. And as I talk to the students, both in the classroom or out of my office or out of the CDL office or whatever it is, it's talking about seizing that opportunity and understanding that there's time, right? I mean, time's fleeting. Time speeds up as you get older. We talk about all those things, but there is time. If something's not working right, there's time to fix it. There's time to learn more. There's time to get extra training. There's time to change a career. And some of our folks that come in, they're changing careers. They've done this their life and they want to do this. And so, it's encouraging and it's important. It's important to have those anchor points, right? You might think of it sort of philosophical, but a fixed point of reality. That mentor becomes that fixed point of reality where it's very grounding. It's you find center. You're like, oh wait, now this makes sense, right? Because if you're especially in a truck, you're behind the wheel, you have a couple of bad days, a few bad loads. I mean, and that happens everywhere. Your mind's going crazy, you're going nuts, things are going crazy, and you're just like, and then you go and find that person and they soothe you. They bring you back, they bring your brain back to a place where you're actually thinking about and making good decisions. And so, mentorship's so important. It's so important. And that's why we want to keep having those connections with all of our students that come through.
That's fantastic. And I think that's one of the things that really draws me to programs like your guys's, out of the schools is I think with that education system, like mentorship is kind of ingrained. So there's already that like importance embedded there versus some of these, like I mentioned in the beginning, you get a lot of these fly by night CDL schools was just like, we need to complete A through B. That's it. In and out, so it's a different approach, if you will. Yeah. Ed, how about yourself, man?
So my dad, I grew up working with my dad. So I was pretty fortunate to be with him all the time.
Yeah.
And then when I was 18 and out of high school, I went to work. The first two truck shops I worked at, Keith Morford was an old construction mechanic. And he taught me, you do whatever you got to do to get this job done, get that truck on the road. And then I went from there to a guy named George Wood out of Longmont, Colorado. And George taught us the professional side of it and the customer service side. We had customers that would come from 200 or 300 miles away because they didn't want anybody else to touch their trucks. And he taught us that every little thing you do, you adjust the brakes, you adjust the clutch, you don't charge for that. You just get it done. Do that for that customer. So, and he taught us that you do what it takes to do that job professionally and give the perfect and the best customer service you can give. And I've owned several businesses and been self-employed for a long time. And I've tried to always keep that view because I feel like that sets you apart from others.
Yeah. One thing you said there kind of brought back some memories for me and goes to highlight that mentorship, it comes in many different forms. You mentioned there, do whatever you got to do to get the job done. It was bringing me back to, I used to work low voltage construction, had my own company there for a little bit. But when I was learning the trade, there was several times where I was just flustered in a situation, didn't know how I was going to get through this. And the mentorship that came was just a stern face saying, figure it out. And it's like, okay, we're in this situation. There's no walking away. If I want paid, I got to get this done. And there's just something about that. It's like nothing was really said, but a lot was said at the same time. So mentorship comes in many different shapes and forms, but I think to have somebody there with that foundation just does a world of difference. I truly appreciate you guys coming on today. I feel like we've covered a ton, but within that, do you feel like there's anything we've missed that we need to touch on?
I think, we talked about the building relationships. Everyone wants to make a living.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to go above just a basic living and make money. Partnerships and relationships in this industry does not mean that you always are on the winning side of that. It's a give and take. It's a give and take partnership. There was a broker out of Montana named Ben that he called me one day and he said, "Look, I really need a favor." He said, I can't the load don't pay much. He said, but I got to get it here. Can you get it here? If you do, I'll take care of you. I said, Ben, you always do. So I'll get it there. So I get the load there. It basically paid my fuel. He called me about 3 weeks later and he says, are you sitting down? I said, well, Ben, I drive. So I'm sitting down 11 hours a day. So he tells me the load that he's got. I said, are you kidding me? He said, I told you I'd take care of you. So if all we want to do is win in this business, you're not going to build those relationships and get ahead.
Yeah.
A partnership is a give and take partnership. And that's what truck drivers have to remember. And dispatchers and brokers. We're in this together as a big family.
Yeah. That's a very excellent point. And that's one of the reasons that I like to not just, interview truck drivers, but kind of everyone from all around the industry. There's so many moving parts in this. And I think for especially somebody that wants to go in there as that owner operator, run the business, it's important to understand what all those moving parts are, what that day-to-day looks like for them, those situations that they're going through, because that all comes back and connects, and to see how, those ebbs and flows happen at the end of the day. Because we're all on the same team, and this whole crazy thing called logistics, right? Like, it doesn't take a lot for it to have a hiccup, and a hiccup can cause a huge disruption in localities, our nation, globally. So it's important to be active with that give and take, and make sure, at the end of the day, this is bigger than us, and to be on the side that helps that improve and become a better system altogether.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day today. I feel like we have learned a great deal from you guys. And if you're up for it, I would love to get you back on in the future, kind of keep up to date with what you guys are doing, what's new, and just learn more about you. I feel like there's so much more we could probably talk about.
We'd love to do it.
That'd be perfect. That'd be great. Appreciate
Fantastic.
you.
I appreciate you guys.
You can do your show remote.
Do what now?
You can do your show remote in September at Trucks Are for Girls.
Oh, let's talk. Let's see what we can make happen for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely stay in touch. I want to, before we go, give you guys a chance for shameless plugs. How can people get a hold of you, find out more about your program, website, all that good stuff?
Google Eastern Wyoming College, and in the search bar at the top, type in CDL. We've got it streamlined and pretty simple now.
Yep. You can apply 24 hours a day, be part of the program, and you'll reach out in a few days. You process through the system, and then Ed or one of us will call and get a hold of you. We're all about building professionals in the truck industry. That's what we're about here. That is our motto, and that's what we're doing.
Love that. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for letting us take a little time out of your day today. We'll definitely get you back on in the future. I know there's more we can discuss there, but hey, for everything you guys are doing for this industry, I personally say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody out there watching, thanks so much. Be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe out there. Have a great day.